All right, here we are.
Okay, good morning. Jacksonians who might be listening in, welcome to our monthly policy review committee. And my name is Jean Hairston, and I will turn the meeting over to Attorney Larissa Moore.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. Good morning. I'm going to share my screen. Today, we just have one policy that we will be reviewing for amendment, and the name of that policy is AEAA/GADR, paid legal holidays. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes, now.
Okay. So this is the policy that's being displayed. Is the one policy that's up for review today. Mr. Burke will assist me with discussing this policy.
Thank you, Attorney Moore. So committee, this policy revision or revision recommendation centers around the title of this policy. In reviewing it, we find, and having discussions with employees, we find that this policy was a little misleading in the use of the word paid in front of legal holidays, and it was inconsistent with the statute for which it was based upon. Mississippi statute 120.3-3.1 speaks in terms of providing authority to governmental agencies centered around the holidays that we will observe. JPS, as a school system, observes some very specific holidays, those that are identified by the governor of the state and by the president of the United States. We also, in this policy, our policy lacked language that clarified what it meant to be in active work status on a holiday. So we added language that employees who are not actively in pay status, on a legal holiday will not be compensated for those holidays. We do not pay employees for holidays. It is against Mississippi law or the Constitution to pay people for days that they don't work, time that they don't work. So the use of the word paid implies that they're getting paid on a day that they're actually off. So that is the recommendation, is to remove the word paid from the title, define what active status means in order for a person to be paid. And in that case, if they do actually report to work or are required to report to work, and they do come in and do work, they will be paid for any additional time that they work. And then it gets this policy in line with Mississippi code, the code section I referenced.
Wow, thank you so much for that. It's a pretty important policy to get correct.
Hey, Mr. Burke or
yes,
Attorney Moore, would you please just clarify what would be the lived experience for employees?
So excellent question, Dr. Green. There will really be no change to an employee's pay. Their compensation as it is right now would stay the same. However, when we're talking to them in terms of the required number of days to receive that compensation, we will remove any count for holidays. So if an employee works 192 days, and that employee is part of that 192-day communication is 15 days, or let's just say in this example, 5 days of holidays, we would take the holidays out and simply say your expected work time is 187 days. You're going to be compensated the exact same thing. Now, they will still be off on those days, but we're not including those days in the count of the required work days. That has the resulting effect of actually increasing that person's hourly wage rate. So instead of dividing their annual pay or whatever our annual compensation by 192 days, we'll only divide it by 187 days. So the daily rate of pay goes up. Subsequently, that 8-hour workday amount, that hourly amount based on that 8-hour workday would go up. The benefit to that employee is if they are actually called in on a day that they're not supposed to be working, like a holiday, they would then get the benefit of that increased hourly wage times, and if that forces them into overtime, that would become the basis of their overtime pay. So in some cases, their compensation would go up if they work actual overtime, but there'd be no negative impact to their actual compensation if they work just the days they're supposed to work. Does that answer you? Does that help?
I believe so. May I recap? I want to try and do it as succinctly as possible. One, we can't pay for days that people don't work. And so unless you are approved to work overtime, you are not to be working on any holiday or any day that you're scheduled to be off. Yes. Right. So that's one. Yes. It's got to be approved for overtime pay, approved for overtime work to be paid. Two, an employee's annual salary is not being changed by this policy amendment. Whatever your annual salary is your annual salary. What would be changed here is a recalculation of the required days for your position. If you're supposed to be working 190 days, but there are 5 days baked in for holidays, we back out those 5 days. So now, going forward, your required days of work would be 185.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Annual salary doesn't change, but because of that reduction in work days, your calendar days, work days, your hourly pay would go up. So the benefit to the employee would be if you happen to be approved to work overtime and work overtime hours, the hours for which you are working overtime would be paid at a slightly higher rate.
Exactly.
And is there a set, thank you, Dr. Green, that was helpful to me to try to understand as well. And is there a certain scale for overtime increased pay that automatically kicks in when we say that's what happens?
So at overtime beyond 40 hours, the employee would receive time and a half. So if they make $10, they would receive $15 for every hour over. If their normal rate of pay is $10 an hour, they would receive $15 an hour for every hour over 40.
Right.
That they were approved to work. Yes.
Right.
And overtime only applies to our hourly non-contractual employees. So people who actually receive a contract, principals, assistant principals, counselors, teachers, those of us on this call, we are all contracted employees. This would pertain to our classified, non-exempt employees who work by the hour.
Okay.
In terms of overtime.
In terms of overtime, but the policy still applies to everybody. Those days are going to be backed out of everybody's required work time.
I see, because it may on occasion happen that a dedicated principal might be in the building longer than the 8 hours.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Or a custodian or whomever. I don't know how to focal pay,
But Doc, the big point here is that we seem to be conflating, I'll say overtime and maybe the holidays. Mm-hmm. And the thing that we're trying to clear up is the language here. Even the title of this policy, paid holiday leave, mm-hmm. or paid holiday time, or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And the reality is we can't pay you for a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you actually physically show up and are working.
Mm-hmm.
And we're approved to do so.
And we're approved to do so. Yes, sir. That's a key.
Because we got to be careful about that too.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Your person and supervisor in line needs to have all that clear ahead of time. Like that's the expectation.
Exactly. That is one of our controls on overtime, that the supervisor has to approve the overtime.
Right.
Doc, any further questions or anything else we can clarify or explain?
Well, I'm just, I really meant to go back and read what the policy used to say.
So if you scroll up, so everything in red dot has been added.
It's brand new.
It's brand new. The policy really said paid legal holidays, and then it jumped down to within the fiscal year, the following holidays shall be observed annually. And none of this other language was there, which was also very confusing because the policy said something that it was titled in a way, but it didn't express any of that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Didn't occur to me to look it up, but it did say until we got in the middle of it. But that's very helpful. I'm not surprised that could have happened the way you described it. Yeah. Well, I feel comfortable with it. With these changes, I had a peripheral question. It's not nearly as important, but it was brought to my attention by some parents last year about Memorial Day. But oh goodness, I can't remember exactly what their wish was, but they were trying to make it easier on families to be able to have more time for Memorial Day. Is this how?
So, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to remember what their concern was. I just can remember saying we already have such and such a day. We just sort of have Memorial Day to fit in, and in their minds, it would give families more time because they would have a longer weekend.
And what I'd say is, this policy is really to try to clean up how we treat holidays and how we talk about holidays vis-a-vis compensation. I'm not sure what that parent was lifting up or lobbying for. Perhaps as you think about it, that's a conversation we reprise when we talk about the calendar that we bring before you. Because I would imagine that they're not lobbying to give up Memorial Day, but perhaps to add another day to that long weekend.
Right. Let me see if I can resurrect my notes. And of course, May is next month, but it is what it is. Yeah. I trust the team in developing this calendar that works most effectively for JPS.
Well, and as a reminder, we work in consultation and collaboration with surrounding districts as well. So just understanding the interconnectedness between our families and other places. Many of our folks live in other places, or their children might go to school in other districts. And so we try to work with them as well to have some continuity.
Right. Well, thank you. I think this has been a good cleaning up and making more exact and informative and precise for all of us involved. So with that said, Attorney Moore, we will put this on the board agenda. Is that your Attorney Moore here?
Yes,
that's what's next? That's what's next.
I'm here, and that's it. That's our last policy for today.
I want to be sure and reach out to Dr. Luckett and Attorney Johnson. When is our next board meeting? The
next board meeting is the 18th.
Okay, so I've got a week to at least remind them that this is going to be on the calendar and they need to be on board so they won't be blinded. Because they both had, I think, pretty important things they have to do today. Yes, so Ms. Williams, remind me, Attorney, do that. Just shoot me an email before the day is out and say, don't forget to get in touch with them. So I just want to make sure
yes, ma'am.
Well informed.
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, that said, I appreciate everybody's work and have a great day. See you soon.
Thank you, Doc.
you.
Mhm.
Appreciate you.